Greetings, dear friends. Mikhail Shaitelman is with us today. As usual, on Mondays at 11. Well, this is already a good tradition. We go on air. Hello, Mikhail.
Hello, Vladimir.
Glad to see you. Very glad to see you. Let's start with blocking YouTube. We read this topic last week, and as it turned out, my subscribers, at least from Russia, calmly write where they are watching from. And 90% of them watch YouTube through a VPN. And 10% still watch without a VPN. And to be honest, my number of views from Russia has not actually dropped. But what about you?
My viewership has dropped and the number of views has obviously dropped. So I checked the number of views from Russia. I looked at the percentage of views from Russia, how this percentage changed just this week in relation to the previous ones. So before I had 12% share of views from Russia, and this week it was 4.9%. That is, 2/3 of people who are from Russia stopped watching. But this is not entirely true, because there are a lot of people who look through a VPN. Yes, many of them have already switched. That is, of those who watched without a VPN, 2/3 over the last week either switched to a VPN or stopped watching due to the ban in Russia. And by the way, I received tons of letters simply from people who can't watch anymore.
So I also refer to such data. And you look again, then you will receive analytics to show how much your views have increased as if from other countries. And so you will see, yes, that in fact all these people, if they are conscious enough to watch your channel. By the way, you can subscribe to Mikhail. Your goal before the new year is 555,000 subscribers, right?
555,555 subscribers. My goal is to have all
Got it,
fifths.
all fifths.
It's 2025, I need all fifths.
So, 2025, all fifths, I think this is a great idea. Friends, let's do a good job. Let's really subscribe to Mikhail, because there are literally a few days left here, and as I understand it, everything is missing.
One day left. One tomorrow. 1 day.
Well, if it's not the first of the month, okay, fine, let's have it be the first of the month, right?
Only need 1,000 subscribers.
Yes, in principle, yes, I agree. 1,000 subscribers in 1 day. Let's do a good job. Let's go to everyone who is watching now and subscribe. Indeed, the link is fixed in the title, in the description. Expand the title, just click, go subscribe. So that Mikhail will have all fifths in subscribers. Yes, and this is a number of subscribers who are now not watching from Russia, but they are now watching from other countries. I understand that if people are enough conscious to watch your channel without VPN, or my channel without a VPN, these same people are conscious enough to connect themselves to a VPN and watch further. I don't see any problem here, but I would of course like to somehow involve the deep nation in all this, which is no longer possible, it seems to me now.
Impossible. Firstly, there will also be certain problems with VPN. I'm sure I just listened to Russian bloggers who broadcast from abroad. There is Ilya Varlamov there, for example. He seems to tell us very little about our war, but he has definitely been declared a foreign agent. Criminal case has been opened against him, but he's travel blogger. And so he tells all this in detail, but since he is a professional, in fact he has been on YouTube for many years, he says, well, listen, Russia is gradually plugging the holes. That is, today a regular VPN works, but tomorrow a regular VPN will no longer work. They constantly increase this pressure. Today watching us is an average difficulty, but tomorrow it will be more difficult for the Russians who want to watch us. It will still be even more difficult for them, just as it was in the Soviet Union when American and Czech radio stations and so on were jammed there. Therefore, it is not very easy. Everyone who switched to VPN is doing a great job, but it will still be difficult, it seems to me. As for the deep nation, I don't think we can change it.
Well, that's it. Yes, you can turn over this page. We haven't achieved our goal. We can state a fact. But how do Russians explain to Russians that in such a beautiful free country they take and block such a source of information as YouTube? Well, it can't...
Oh, I'll tell you.
Yes, go ahead.
It's surprising that I have an answer, because it's direct, real, honest, without any speculation. This means that in the Russian Federation before the start of the war, and not a full-scale one, but simply before the start of the war, the most popular such humorous show among real middle-aged young people was the Comedy Club. Surely many have heard about this product, but it really was a cult something.
Yes.
At the beginning of 2010s, this was the main thing that was in Russia. And there were cult characters, they were all such free guys, so modern, completely Western, just in general. And the host of this show is Pavel Volya, and then there are a lot of other people performing there. And last week, when they actually closed YouTube completely, well, as completely as they could close YouTube, at this comedy club they explained why this is good. That is, Pavel Volya came out and conveyed to the whole country in all satirical form why this is useful and necessary for people. So they did a good job. He was joking, but in essence his message boiled down to the fact that finally we, Russia, can communicate within the family and not sit in the smartphone. That we will waste less time on all sorts of nonsense. After all, what do they show on YouTube? They show some unnecessary things. Videos about facts you don't need, things that aren't that important to you at all. How Australia was created. Why do you need to know how the USA was created? You need to live here in Russia. Or there are some culinary recipes. If you eat less, you won't gain weight, for example. He simply provided a lot of evidence that closing YouTube is a very necessary and important thing. So the Comedy Club managed to ban simply, as it turned out, to degenerate to serve the regime. And KVN in Russia too. KVN now in Russia is mainly engaged in glorifying Putin. And now the Comedy Club has also moved there. They themselves separated. That is, I will not say that all people who worked at the Comedy Club all became Nazis and fascists. But as we see, those who remain to work there are directly promoting the closure of YouTube. That is, please note that this is nonsense because YouTube made them famous. These are people for whom YouTube was probably the first, but not even the second most important means of delivering their content, because there was a TV channel TNT and YouTube channel. Two means. I think that YouTube gave them a larger audience than such a niche TNT TV channel. This is how they explained it. They found a dozen such useful things, of course. Do you know what this reminded me of? I remembered such a story. It was so funny. In one totalitarian country, I won't name it, in a post-Soviet country, somehow my friends tried to open a fast food chain in the capital. A chain of eateries where pancakes are made. Well, yeah, they sell pancakes on the street. So they go to the mayor of the capital of this country. They needed permission for these stalls. He said, no, do you know what it's all about? After all, where there are pancakes, there is vodka, right? That is, they will drink there. And what will happen? That people come home from work, now they go home and drink there. So they will eat pancakes and drink on the street, right? Where do people come from? From the factory, right? Who is this? Man, right? And the man therefore drunk on the street and did not reach the house. This is the LGBT starts right away. Our state policy does not allow LGBT people. This is how the major explained in a simple way that if you open pancakes shop here, we'll start having LGBT people. Well, now the fighting against YouTube is similar in Russia.
Pavel Volya's explanation is on par with all other explanations of Rus propaganda. Well, for example, it is very good that foreign cars will not be produced and sold in Russia.
Yes.
But more Chinese and AvtoVAZ shit will be sold. This is wonderful, wonderful. He further explained that now you will have more time to communicate with your family. That is, it was YouTube's fault that Pasha Volya communicated little with his family, it turns out. YouTube was blamed for everything, but it was banned and very well so. In principle, this can justify a general ban of everything, anything at all. But many of the Comedy Club, in fact, I don't remember their names very well, honestly just because I didn't watch it, but many of them left at the beginning of a full-scale war and became fierce opposition.
Yes, I remember them. Nizlobin left and joined the opposition. Alexander Reva at least left the Comedy Club because of this, so as not to promote the war. These are those ones I remember. Oh, yes, of course, Slibakov already lives in Israel.
Billy,
yes, Ruslan Billy is more of a stand-up guy, but he also appeared in the Comedy Club.
He was there too.
Yes, it's true. I told you, they're not all like that. You know, there are some kinds of mass or maybe some kind of creative mass groups. For example, the program What Where When, this is also a kind of group. Dozens of experts play there. And to my deep regret, because I was watching What Were When, I watched it for a long time. I watched it since childhood, there's almost my age. I watched the first episodes when I was 7 years old. They were divided too. When the first issue was released during the war, half of the experts disappeared. They just disappeared, that's all. They didn't show up again. They refused, because this is a Channel 1. You have to propagandize there. Those scoundrels say, now watch a film about the occupation of Donbass. Half left and half turned out to be complete scoundrels. They are engaged in propaganda there, like how good is that these geopolitical goals are being fulfilled. But it cannot be said that all experts serve the regime. Even an independent association, What Were When, some kind of world anti-war. Well, that's how we gradually split up little by little.
Well, about Korean military, I understand that they didn't deliver any to you either. Have you been
I was
waiting?
counting on yours. I thought Vladimir would call now. When I saw that everything was done, only one was captured, I immediately sat down and complete this phrase book for myself. I have such experience. I was in Japan for the World Cup in 2002, and on a plane you fly for a whole day with transfers. I learned a phrase book, just the whole phrase book.
Yes, we already remembered it.
Yes, I gave an interview in Japanese, that's why... Well, a local TV company. So I thought, let's somehow interrogate a Korean prisoner, but unfortunately he didn't make it. He did not live to see us.
Yes. I must state in this regard that, to the best of my knowledge, we have no living Korean prisoners in stock. And the photo that was taken was already taken with a not entirely alive Korean prisoner.
Well, yes, South Korean intelligence also reported that he died later. Well, in the sense that he died, he didn't live. He was very seriously wounded.
We probably move on to Gordon then. I tell it like it is. So he claimed that December 13, a historic meeting must take place that will end the hot phase of the war. You see that in recent days there has been practically no anxiety. In general, he talks about how there are no alarms, no shelling, no nothing, and they should have been there on New Year's Day. And then Peskov, it would be possible not to react, but in my opinion, even Peskov simply reacts to this statement and state the following. There are currently no prerequisites for ending the Ukrainian conflict or any phase of it. And he clearly, absolutely stated that Putin has no international contacts planned for December 13th. And Lavrov at the same time generally declares that Russia will lift the moratorium on the deployment of medium and short-range missiles with the nuclear warheads. Taking all these facts one by one, that is your opinion regarding Gordon's prophecy.
Yes, well, I was surprised that Gordon managed to spread this news all over the world. At least for Russian-speaking audience around the world. Because very serious people who directly have information from Western countries asked me a question. Tell me, what's going on with you? Do you have a truce or something? I wondered where they could get such information from. They gave some arguments, did not directly refer to Gordon, but indirectly, yes. In the West, this was all taken seriously. So far only Peskov, who always lies, not at least explain something. Well, in general, let's be honest, what is this rumor based on? A rumor that sounds like now there will be a truce. There is a basis for this rumor. The first reason that people generally refer to is... The first is that Zelensky said that tomorrow we expect a big important step from the United States in support of Ukraine, and so on. Well, it's clear, I think, to almost everyone. I am 99% sure that Zelensky meant that today the US will announce an aid package for more than $1 billion, and maybe even more. I'm sure that's what he meant, but it so happens that many of these statements, for some reason, correlated with Gordon and thought that this means some kind of truce. The second news is that the Russian government plane was in Washington for 2 days. The plane took off from Moscow to St. Petersburg, then flew to New York, and then flew to Washington. But I want to upset those who want, and many want, a truce, but I want to upset them by the fact that such cases happened at least a dozen times during the war. Just a dozen times when some government planes actually carried someone to Washington. Because they called for an explanatory conversation. The director of FSB, then the director of the Foreign Intelligence Service, the curator called it to the Pentagon, yes, or to the the CIA. That's why this is a constant procedure. This is not the first time during our war. It's not the second time, and not the third, and not the fourth, and not the fifth. Therefore, there is no need to delude yourself either. The news is that there are a few shaheeds released. Well, today I think there were 50 per night, or whatever it is. I can honestly lie now, but there were 43 shaheeds tonight. Well, today there are 43 shaheeds overnight. Therefore, to somehow say that is not enough and they stopped shelling us would be very far from the truth. And finally, yes, indeed, Gordon announced the truth. And then there is this. It's called the Barbara Streisand effect. One news story can increase the visibility of similar news stories. I will give an example that's simply understandable. After Russia shot down an Azerbaijan plane and in Korea, which is true, the plane crashed. It was flying from Bangkok. Over the past 24 hours, there have been 6 or 7 news stories about plane near crashes. In Canada, the plane hit a fence with its wing. In Norway, the plane rolled off the landing strip there. And in Poland, the plane also rolled out somewhere. All this news happens all the time. Every day planes roll out of the runway, every day their wings touch some buildings. Just every day. But they are communicated locally. That is, a local city website would write, "Today plane hit a barn with its wing." But as soon there are 2 news stories about lost planes, reinforces other similar news, and they're the same thing. Without Gordon's statement, all the other news would be about the plane of the Russian Federation and the government was in Washington. Well, it was, so what? Oh, there was less shelling than yesterday. Well, less than yesterday, they are probably preparing for fire tomorrow. All these routine statements were glued together by Gordon's statement. That's why I'm not going to evaluate the patterns, and by the way, this is not a forecast. What I'm saying now is under no circumstances. Let me just remind you that for 2 years in a row on December 31st, we had heavy shelling. The first New Year's Eve, there was a very big shelling, probably the biggest night shelling. I still remember that it lasted there until 5 in the morning, and this is the endless work of air defense in Kyiv. In Kyiv, at that time, the air defense was much weaker. And December 31st last year, in my opinion, is the day when the largest number of deaths occurred. More than 30 people died from the Kinzhal missiles in Kyiv. That is, in principle, it is typical for Russia to do this on December 31st. They can prepare for this. This is just such a version. Therefore, of course, nothing will happen today. I am absolutely sure that nothing will happen. And most importantly, and now to begin with, first I look at all these facts separately. And now the fundamentals. And with whom? Just who could you meet with today and conclude some kind of agreement about something? It's late with Biden, early with Trump, and with Carter in general. It was necessary to think in the 80s. Well, or in the 70s. Jimmy Carter just died yesterday. I remembered another president.
I understand that no one wants to hear this at all, and not from me and not from you. But I would still mentally prepare for the fact that a terrorist country will carry out another serious attack in the near future. And not some kind of truth that suddenly arose out of nowhere, as you just talked about it. It is unclear where, and it's unclear as a result. But nevertheless, there are reactions, there are discussion. It is obvious that, by the way, there is a request for some kind of negotiation. Well, that is so shady on both sides wants negotiations. So we cannot help but talk about this either. But Mardan wrote. First it was Mardan who wrote. Russians are drawing Russians. This is a pure fact. Now Mardan confirmed this. Speaks. A Norwegian ship that refused to take on board the crew of the cargo ship Ursa Major, owned by the Russian Ministry of Defense. I don't know what the correct name is. That crashed in the Mediterranean off the coast of Spain on Tuesday is not actually Norwegian at all. Also, the owner is from Norway. They have an office in Kaliningrad, and the entire crew is from Kaliningrad. That is, the Russian captain refused to save the Russian sailors. That's Russian propagandists themselves confirm the fact that the office... I'm reading again. The owner is from Norway, yes, but the main office is in Kaliningrad and the entire crew is from Kaliningrad. And so they refuse to save the Russian sailor. What is all about it that Russian sailors refuse to save Russian sailors? True or false?
Yes, but it's understandable why. Because let's say this ship with a Norwegian owner with an office in Kaliningrad and crew in Kaliningrad. This is part of the Shadow Fleet, as you might guess, Russian. What is a shadow fleet? When they say sanctions against the shadow fleet, they bypass sanctions with the help of the shadow fleet. They have 238 tankers in the shadow fleet. Because, of course, various cargoes are imported by the shadow fleet. Everything that is prohibited is tinkered with by the shadow fleet. This is exactly how a shadow fleet is created. You register another destined country as the owner, and then you control it by yourself. This is the idea of the entire shadow fleet. But as soon as you pick up some people in distress, it turns out that, truly speaking, you are carrying cocaine. Of course, you're not carrying cocaine, but that's the principle. You walk by because you don't know what they are going to do to you now. So it seems like there is a ship like this. These are thieves who are trying to sneak somewhere. A thief sneaks somewhere and see that a person is feeling bad. Will he save the person? No, if he starts saving someone, he will definitely be erased. That's why these people are hiding. I think those who were sailing by, they are hiding and they are afraid to get involved in such things and run away just in case. Well, again, there is the ship of the Shadow Fleet that cut the cable between Estonia and Finland. Well, Finns simply captured it by force. Special forces flew in from helicopters, captured him, dragged it away to Finland and are now interrogating him. These guys, I think, also walked like this Flying Dutchman with beacons, lights and other things turned off. That's why it took so long to find who these people are. The fate of this very ship of the Rosaboron export is also interesting. What happened to it? They are now claiming that they were blown up, and I will not point a finger at who could have done it. This ship, which actually sunk, has several stories about it. The first is that many times during the war in Syria, he transported equipment, weapons, and much more to Syria and back. That is this Rosaboron Logistics, not Rosaboron Export, but Rosaboron Logistics. That is, they transport military equipment by order of the Ministry of Defense. Therefore, there was a version that it was going to Syria to pick up Russian tanks or something else, and maybe some Syrians. And then someone with 3 explosions, that is, it was either 3 drones of some kind, sunk it off the coast of Spain. I don't know whether our naval drones are there, but there are many who could have drawn this, because Russia has a lot of enemies today because of Syria. Either the Turks, of course, and maybe someone a little on the other side of the ocean, I don't know. At the same time, it is also interesting that they by themselves tell us what cargo they were carrying on the ship. They were carrying covers for nuclear reactors. Yes, covers for nuclear reactors in Vladivostok, because they are building a nuclear icebreaker, which I don't remember what it will be called. And so they made these unique leads and transported them through Africa and so on there. Therefore, this is a very complicated ship that sank, obviously in a completely complicated way, in which someone sank it. That is, this is an operation like Nord Stream 2, I wanted to say, but Nord Stream 2 is already the whole name of the operation. I mean, the bombing on Nord Stream 2, another international sabotage operation carried out by some very special people against the Russians. And I'm not saying that we will never know the whole truth. We will find out, but not very soon. But this is an interesting story, it will continue.
No, well, of course. Of course, I just wanted to say that Norwegians, namely real Norwegians, it's hard to blame them for not providing help to someone there. Because as far as I remember, when the Kursk submarine sunk, the Norwegians were the first to offer help, and a week later the Norwegian diver just Are Valby opened the outer hatch of Compartment 9 and discovered that the room flooded, but there were no survivors left inside. No, even then, a week later. And initially, when they offered help, if this help had been accepted, then the Norwegians would have saved them. It turns out that the Russian team is not saving the Russian team, fearing that they will be accused there of helping the Shadow Fleet. Well, there is a purely moral aspect here. This is the essence of Russians. Yes, this is the essence of Russian sailors, so-called, are that they can simply abandon their own if their backside is in immediate danger. They do it again and again, constantly demonstrating by drawing on posters, "We don't abandon our own," and then saying that they are doing both in the so-called SMO, and now in this case, is that they are abandoning their own at the first opportunity, as soon as their bottom is in danger.
We don't abandon our own is an official slogan, but unofficial is, since mostly people during the war, many of the prisoners from Russian prison came. It sounds Today you die and tomorrow I. That is, if you die, then you are today. But I'm tomorrow, not today. I'm not with you today. This slogan is the main slogan of the city of Magadan.
This is true. About Aliyev, there is a long text here. It seems worth reading it seems to me. Facts of the reports indicate that the Azerbaijan plane was damaged from the outside. Quote from Aliyev's speeches. The tail section was heavily damaged by fire from the ground. We also know that our aircraft was rendered unusable by electronic warfare. One of the things that upset and surprised us was the Russian official structures put forward versions of the explosions of some kind of gas cylinder. This openly showed that the Russian side wants to keep silent, and this does not benefit anyone. Demands to Russia from Aliyev. The Russian country must apologize to Azerbaijan. Second, have to admit their own guilt. Third, the predators must be punished and brought to justice. Fourth, Azerbaijan and the injured passengers and crew members must be paid compensation. Yesterday, during a call with Aliyev, Putin did apologize, but only for the fact that the incident occurred in Russian airspace. Nothing was said about the air defense and electronic warfare work that resulted in the crash. And judging by Aliyev's tone, these apologies clearly seemed insufficient to him. Do you think the international community will bite again? I don't see any deep concern from any of the statements. No, yeah, it is obvious that the Russians shot down a plane over their territory. Do you remember examples where some other normal country took foreign planes and shot them down over its territory? Was there anything like this? And, again, let's return to our international community to concerns. Will there any other concern, at least some official notes?
There will be, and not just notes. If you remember, the United States shot down an Iranian passenger plane in the Persian Gulf when it was flying dangerously close to an aircraft carrier. They mistook it for a military one and shot it down. It happened. We still remember how our Ukrainian plane was shot down in Iran. This is all fresh before a full-scale war. But of course, these are really few cases. About the situation, now it looks like no one is going to keep silent. Look at Aliyev. But Aliyev could have hushed it up, but Aliyev could have done it as quietly as possible. Moreover, mind you, could he have received more money in the form of compensation? No question at all. He would simply name any amount and he would be paid that amount immediately. Not a question at all, just. That is, it's not about money. It's about, this is our national pride. It's about this and that. Look what you've done. He really trolled at everyone except Putin personally. Aliyev, well, in this sense, trolled, I mean, told them all for their versions and so on. I remember how on the first day after, a day after this whole disaster, Peskov said, Well, we're okay. I can't tell you any other news. There will be some kind of official investigation, but nothing unusual happened here. I said, well, he will have to answer Aliyev for these words, Peskov personally for these words. That's why that it was he who at that moment insulted the memory of Azerbaijanis passengers, saying that nothing unusual happened to us. And indeed, Aliyev decided not to put the brakes on all this. The first step is all these statements by Aliyev. The second thing is that Kazakhstan, well represented in my opinion by the Minister of Transport, they announced yesterday what they will do with the plane's black box. That is that information those on board records. They themselves will choose where to transmit it. And they transfer it to Brazil. They transfer it to Brazil to the manufacturer Embraer. That is, Embraer, of course, will publish everything and give them all their conclusions. That's why they are interested in providing that everything is in order with their planes. This is a very unfriendly step on the part of Kazakhstan towards Russia. This is absolutely true. Further, more and more airlines and more
Regarding
and more...
Embraer, by the way, it's debatable. Why do you think that Russian cannot bring money to Embraer? So that Embraer gives a report, something like, no, this is not because of our plane. Everything is fine with the plane, everything is fine with the engine, and the plane fails as a result of some external influence. What kind of external influence, of course, they may not register, and then the birds can punch the plane, through 150 holes. Or it is Russian electronic warfare.
Well,
and air
why
defense.
not bring money in Embraer? Now I'll tell you wrongly.
Well, let's go.
It's like they say, fixing football matches.
Yes.
Can you bring money to Manchester United so it will lose to Liverpool? Well, you can't. Can't pay Manchester for it lose to Liverpool for several reasons. So it's possible to bring money to Textile Worker Commission so he loses to Textile Worker Ivanov, but it's impossible to win against Manchester United. Why? First, Manchester United is the worst so much that one such story simply kills its reputation naturally. Manchester United is worth several $billion. Further, Manchester United has a lot of players and a coach, and you can't go around each of them and say lose, because they each have their own pride and so on. Same with Embraer. Embraer is a giant. It's just, well, I don't know, it's something that is impossible to imagine even in scale, because this company was founded more than 50 years ago in 1969. Their turnover, how much it is in dollars, I don't remember now. Well, in short, they have tens of billions of assets there, I don't know how much capitalization they have and whether they are traded on the stock
Everyone
exchange.
understands. It's clear what you're getting at. It's clear what you are saying, but let's just record it. So if, in your opinion, the Brazilian Embraer does not properly describe the cause of the disaster with this plane that happens, did they bring it in them?
Capitalization $6 billion, so you understand. I just look right now.
Elon Musk also seemed to be considered the richest man in the world.
And therefore, his companies, not Elon Musk himself, but his companies cannot afford to lie. And therefore, in Elon Musk's companies, he by himself does not have access to information. There is no access to documentation, no access to military secrets that his company possesses. Embraer employs engineers, employs international engineers. I'm sure that the Americans are sitting there, the British are there, everyone is sitting in that same Embraer. They developed this aircraft. And one of them risking his entire life to sign false documents. They won't write, City of Grozny, the air defense was firing from a machine gun. They will write that the metal ones flew in from outside. And so on and so on. This is all that will be writing in these conclusions. No, that's why Embraer...
No, well, if it is written that they are metal and not birds, then this is already
This will
clear.
already be obligatory. Therefore, Embraer cannot be purchased, because you can buy history, right? There are some things that cannot both in the world. The president of Brazil can be personally corrupted. One person, but the system is so large and built, which has existed longer than Russia, Russia has existed since 1999 and Embraer since 1969. Well, it's like here the story, and Kazakhstan did this. And so he could act differently too. He could have said, well, it happened in Russia, so let's transfer these black boxes to Russia. Why not exactly? Or maybe we'll create a joint Kazakhstan-Russian communication and we will investigate it together. No, they gave it to Embraer. And further about the world community, look, here is Israel today. El Al Airlines announced that it is canceling all flights to Moscow until the end of March. That is, this is no longer. At first they said, I think, for 2 weeks or something like that, to the end of March, that 3 months. Fly Dubai is canceling flights. Yesterday, this is completely unrealistic. Turkmenian Airlines canceled flights to Moscow. I didn't know what they were, that they had airlines and planes canceled flights. That is, it is a wave. This is how the wave will go now, because there will be more and more facts and some other companies will be forced to move on because of these facts. Then there are all these international air travel regulators. Do you understand? When the Belarusians stole the air district plane, when they landed it by force, right? Not on the same day the airspace in Belarus closed on. Not on the same day. First there was an investigation. They proved that there was no reason for them to land this plane. Lukashenko said that a bomb was planted, so when it proved, it took several weeks, I don't remember how many. And after that, all flights were closed. The International Federation directly said, now you cannot fly to Belarus because it is a country of air piracy. And now I think there will be some kind of... I'm not saying that that's it, no one will fly. It's clear that Russian will find friends.
They will thereby endanger the lives of the crew and the lives of passengers.
Some minor Chinese companies in the interest of making money will agree to risk their lives to make money. Something like this will happen. But all countries, let's say, have airlines with a separate reputation. Do you understand? There are many airlines in China. Well, if you take some Guangzhou Airlines, it has no international reputation. But Turkish Airlines has an international reputation, and Turkish Airlines, the company that created this reputation, is the largest in the world. Probably by the number of this destination, it's the largest in the world. It will have big problems in order to fly to Russia at all after this. That from just after the conclusions of the International Commission. And this is another step, just another step towards cutting of Russia, well, in general as it were, from the world, and that's right. This is in any case for the good. So just running and shouting they shut down our plane is one thing. And another thing is the bureaucratic procedure. There are harsh statements made by Aliyev, and then there is a bureaucratic procedure. And it seems to me that since Aliyev did not hush it up, Kazakhstan did not hush it up. Then it will take its course, this procedure, and will be quick. Then some say that, look, with the Indonesian plane it took 8 years. It took 8 years to sentence this terrorist Strelkov. But there it's different. There are the conclusion that it was shut down as a result of air defense work. Broadly speaking, I think that in February all this will be clear.
There is no question here whose air defense might have been there. Yes, it's absolutely
obvious.
clear that it was shut down by Russia.
Yes, then they found out who gave the order. Then there was a general equation, since Donbass was a gray zone, that is, no one, no UN state or recognized that there was a war going in Donbass between Russia and Ukraine. There was nothing like that. But on March 22, we had a UN resolution stating that there is a war between Russia and Ukraine. Accordingly, at this moment, the territory of Russia automatically becomes a combat zone under international law. This is automatic, the country territory of Russia, that is, planes fly over the combat zone. And then it turns out that their defense shut it down, so make your own conclusions. I think that, by the way, some airline, I don't remember now, but a Kazakhstani one. Kazakhstani, but not the main one. That is not Astana Air, but Kazakhstan Air, for example. It cancelled flights to the European part of Russia, up to and including Yekaterinburg. But it was allowed to fly to Novosibirsk and Omsk. But there is logic in this. We really can't reach there. But with our drones, we have the Ural somewhere, the limit. That is quite the same solution.
Listen, did the president of Armenia really express sympathy and condolences to Aliyev?
Well, that was in news.
Yes, I read this news. I'm just not sure if that's true. They seem to be unfriendly countries. And moreover, they are in a state of war.
Firstly, no. Well, formally, of course, they are not there because they fought as the army of Nagorno-Karabakh. These are also separatists. Armenia never recognized the independence of Nagorno-Karabakh, did not recognize participation of its army in the war, but Armenia and Azerbaijan do not have a peace treaty. This is true. They have been one step away from signing this agreement for more than a year now, but it doesn't work out. The Russians are spoiling something for them. Yes, Nikol Pashinyan expressed condolences, well, as much as I read in the press, and this is in fact, a very cool step. A very serious one. I literally even said yesterday that I've been going for a very long time, about 2 months, trolled Pashinyan for his bike ride around Moscow and called him a Moscow cyclist. But decided to stop trolling him when a man really took such a huge step towards Azerbaijan. 2 countries have resolved a long-term, many 10-year territorial dispute, they have decided. Yes, that's it. They returned to their internationally recognized borders. The next step is the signing of a peace treaty. And that's where it starts next, a process that will take decades, is the reconciliation of 2 peoples. And the fact that Nikol Pashinyan is such a strong person that he took it and expressed condolences in this situation isn't, this is exactly what is called big politics. A truly big man with big politics.
And I hope you got the number of subscribers you wanted to get.
Well, there are still 300 people left, so it's almost... Well, thank you and all your viewers. Everything was almost a success. Well, we can do it.
We're the only ones. We just reached the required amount for the broadcast.
Yes.
We're now leaving the broadcast, but people will continue to watch it all, and I am almost sure that this required number will reach it. Mikhail, I thank you as usual for the broadcast, and I hope next Monday at 11, we will go out again and talk about new events. With coming.
With coming.
Happy New Year, victory to us, goodbye.